Woo. Ah, see him a beast when you hear that sound like. Ah, yeah, beat on the beat when you hear that sound like. Woo. Yeah, bitch, I'm the champ, only me one round like. Ha, yeah, me, I'm a G-Ring, he in the sound like.
Mike Owens here. Today I'm joined by Farid Basharat, who at UFC 285 makes his eagerly anticipated UFC debut facing Jon Blackshear. Farid, great to sit down and chat. How are things at you today?
Thank you very much, brother. I'm very good, man. I'm very good. I'm 2 weeks away from making my debut, and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling amazing, to be honest. I can't wait.
Look, the first topic I want to get into is a little bit of a comparison between yourself and Javid, because Javid's first three fights, for those of people who don't know, Farid and Javid are the two brothers fighting in the UFC. Javid's first three fights have been in the Apex. You're making your debut on a pay-per-view card headlined by Jon Jones. Does that add anything to this moment, or is this just all, smoke and mirrors?
Yeah, it definitely adds something. It adds everything it adds. It's positive. Like even the pressure that it adds. I feel like pressure is depends on how you take it. Most people connect that word with negativity. The pressure got to me, this, that. But for me, the pressure is also it's more most of the time it's a positive thing because okay, there's more pressure, meaning more eyes, more exposure. I'm fighting alongside greatness. So it just motivates me that little bit more to perform well and just showcase my skills.
How was training camp been? I mean, I know for the Contender Series fight, you obviously went in with an injury a couple of weeks out. How has this camp been?
This camp's been great. Straight after the Contender Series fight, I got surgery, did my rehab, and then I'm glad I didn't rush my training or anything. Because it was a injury that needed to be taken seriously, and my plan the whole time was to I wasn't gonna start camp until my arm was perfect, and that's exactly what I did. Because the last thing you want to go into camp is worrying, am I gonna hurt myself again? And I let my arm recover 100%, and thanks to the PI, UFC Performance Institute, the physio team, and SNC team, they've done such an incredible job with me. Just the last 8 weeks or so have been me nonstop worrying about my performance and my training. I haven't had to worry about my arm, which has been great.
No, that's fantastic, and health is always number one, so that's good to hear. Let's talk a little bit about your opponent, Damon Blackshear. Give me your scouting report. What have you seen? What do you think he's good at? Where do you think you can exploit some weaknesses?
I think the man is he's experienced. He's fought some very good guys too. I think he's a competent fighter. He's good. He's decent everywhere. I don't think he's particularly great anywhere. He's quite durable. He's never been finished, in almost 20 fights and maybe 5, 10 plus more amateur fights. So he's very durable in that sense. And but I just also think he's never come up across anybody like myself and somebody with my skill sets. Um, be it on the feet or on the ground, depends where he wants to take this fight, and I'll react. I never really force where to take the fight, but I definitely think there's wherever the fight goes, I'll be in control.
You mentioned there about his durability, about his never being finished in amateur or pro. When you're
Mhm.
going into a fight with an opponent who hasn't been stopped, do you change the game plan? And what I mean by that is, do you almost change your style to almost expect to go 15 minutes?
No, because we prepare. Well, I prepare to go 15 anyway. Gas tank being one of my strongest things, so I'm never worried about going 15 minutes. And as far as him being stopped or not being stopped, I don't really look for the finish ever. Some people chase the finish. They want to put on an exciting show. They want to get the 50 Gs, whatever. With my kind of style, with how entertaining I am, and just the weapons that I have at my disposal, I know the finish is not. It's always nearby. So I kind of just worry about the overall 15 minutes. And I know if I play my cards right, the finish is just around the corner always.
100%. I think I read online that, if memory serves, Blackshear had spent some time in your gym in Extreme Couture recently. I don't know if that's true, but if so, have you spent any time in the training room with your upcoming opponent?
Yeah, he was here for a few months. I think he wanted to move out here and he wanted to train out here. Um, but I never got a chance to train with him because at the time when he was here, I was it was right after my surgery, so I wasn't training. But he was here. I bumped into him a couple of times and stuff. But I never got to train with him, no.
Mm. Does that make a difference? Because there will be people in the room who presumably you're training with now who may have spent rounds with the upcoming opponents.
No, not really, to be honest with you, man. All of our footage is online now. You know,
Mm.
you could I have 30 like 20, 30 fights of his to watch and analyze. He's got 15 fights of mine to watch and analyze between amateur and pro. So there isn't, I mean, at this stage where at such a high level, the internet is so easily accessible, it doesn't really make a difference.
No, 100%. And whilst we've touched on Extreme Couture, I'd like to talk a little bit about the gym that you reside because I think I saw a photo on your Instagram earlier today, from a couple of weeks back, and it was yourself, Patchy Mix was in the photo,
Yeah.
Cody No Love, Manel Cap, Kobe Fair. You know, I think you put the best pay-per-view rounds or something like that in the
Yeah, yeah,
comments.
yeah.
How important is it for you? Because I know that the level of training partners that you get in Las Vegas, how important is it to have that iron sharpens iron training camp?
Yeah, it's essential, because the whole point of training and practice is so that you go into the fight not being not being thrown off by anything, because you've done it already in the gym. If I'm striking with Manel Cap and Javid Basharat, who in my opinion are like two of the best strikers in the UFC, and then I'm grappling with Patchy Mix and these guys, and who is maybe one of the best grapplers in MMA, you know, when I go to fight night, I'm not going to be surprised by much. Now,
Mm.
given it's, of course, I have to respect my opponent, and in fight night, anything can happen, and the guy's going to be on his like A1 game. But still, if I'm training alongside these guys every day, sharpening iron, iron sharpens iron. I'm going to go into fight night just so ready for what my opponent's going to throw at me.
Give me the juicy gossip, Farid. Give me the juicy gossip. Who is the toughest rounds in the gym? Who is that person when you go, I'm going with him next? You kind of sigh to yourself and go, oh, I've got to spend 5 minutes training with this animal.
Man, to be honest with you, there's a bunch of them. Like as far as overall MMA goes, if I'm being honest, the person I hate sparring the most is my brother because he knows me so well. And remember that clip between Whitaker and Darren Till when after the fight when Whitaker goes to Till, oh man, it was like chess. You kept fainting and I kept fainting, and it was
Mm.
like exhausting. That's what it's like with me and Javid. It's like one of those Jackie Chan movies where I do something, he counters, he counters, he counters. It's almost like it's choreographed because we know each other so well. And of course he's very high level. But yeah, with the grappling, like I said, Patchy Mixes, he's a terror. Kobe Fair, who's coming up. Amir Albazi, oh my God, I've been grappling him for 10 years now, and it never gets easier. And on the striking department, I mentioned Manil Cap, Cody Garbrandt, Javid, yeah, these are some of the guys who are Timmy Kwamba. I have to give love and respect to Timmy Kwamba. He's coming up. He's 6 or 7 and 1 featherweight, and he's freaking strong. He's fast, well taught. So these are the guys, man. These like if I'm trying, like you said, if I'm training with these guys, man, fight night. There's not much I won't have seen in the past that I haven't in the past 8 weeks or 10 weeks.
100%. We've got to talk about Javid because in many ways I think fighting it's an old cliche, but fighting is a lonely sport, isn't it? Only you got in there and can dictate your own actions. But
Yeah,
nevertheless, I would imagine having an old Javid's older than you if memory serves.
yeah,
That
yeah.
correct?
He's older than me.
Having an older brother or a brother nonetheless to share some of the burdens of fighting, that's got to be a useful asset in many ways for both of you.
Oh, 100%. For me, I can say for myself, he's because he's 2 years older than me, he's always a couple of steps ahead of me in our career. So he had his UFC debut exactly 51 weeks. By the time I fight on March 4th, he will have had his UFC debut 51 weeks
Mm.
prior to mine. So this is all great information, great experience for me. I've cornered him a bunch of times in the UFC, so I know how these things behind the scenes work. I know the pace and the feeling. Because watching it on TV is different from watching it live. I know what it's like up close in the cage, and he can just share his experience and his knowledge with me. And yeah, like you said, he's got the blueprint
Mm.
for me, and I'm just kind of following his blueprint, taking what he did well, and then improving on what he could have done better. So yeah, it's definitely easier for me
Mm.
than than it is for him, in that sense.
We've saw it throughout both of your careers. Anyone who's followed the Basharat brothers has seen that both of your ability to blend the striking right into the grappling seamlessly. And I guess what I'd
Mhm.
like to know is, do you think that's a natural ability that you both have, or do you think that's something that's been developed through a specific part of your coaching and your journey, if you like?
I can 100% say it's been developed because if you look at me and Javid, we're two Afghans from who grew up in Britain. Where were we supposed to? Where is the grappling lineage? Where is the grappling background? It's not like we were from Brazil and we had jujitsu growing up, or we're from Dagestan or Kafkas or Russia, or somewhere where we had wrestling. We simply it's our mindset. We realize from the beginning, like, okay, the all-roundedness and fight IQ is what win fights. And same goes for striking. Like, we didn't grow up in boxing gyms. We didn't grow up in kickboxing gyms. We didn't have an older sibling or a parent that was a professional fighter or something. So it really is all our mindset, and it's been developed. We just put so much effort into it. We stayed in the gym nonstop. I think where some people became um like purists. They just did jujitsu and then they went into MMA, or they just did boxing and then they went to MMA. Me and Javid from the beginning, we highlighted that we knew it was going to be super important to be well rounded, especially the trajectory in which the sport was heading. And yeah, so from the beginning, that was the plan, to be very well rounded.
Couple of difficult questions now, but can you give me something that you feel like you do better than Javid?
It was something I do better than Javid. Maybe because of how I'm built, and maybe I have a little bit more power.
And can you give
Maybe
me
I'm
some?
I'm 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 built slightly more mesomorphic. Maybe because he's very very tall for the weight division. He's like he's one of the tallest bantamweights in the division, and I'm more average height. But then I've got a little bit more muscle on me, and he's more slinky. So I'd say maybe I have a little bit more natural power than he does.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you give me something that Javid does better than you?
Something Javid does better than me. Um, there's a couple of things to be fair, but I would say I would say he probably has a little bit better killer instinct because if you look at his record, he has I think he's 14-0 with 11 finishes or 12 finishes, 11 finishes, and I'm 9-0 with like I think 5 or 6 finishes. So I definitely have killer instinct too, but I feel like Jav is just across the board, pound for pound, like he has very very high killer instinct. Once he gets you hurt, he doesn't let off. Whereas myself, I kind of look to pick you apart a little bit more at times.
No, 100%. You mentioned there about obviously growing up in the UK. In some ways, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but in terms of the media outreach, it doesn't feel like Basharat brothers are kind of included in the UK scene at the moment. Do you feel like you guys
Thank
get the
you.
love? Do you think you guys get the
Yeah,
love that
you
you
know
should
what?
deserve?
I'm glad you mentioned this because I don't know what I have to do to show people that do I have to prove that I spent 20 years in the UK? I thought my story, look at the way I speak,
Mm,
I sound like a proper Brit. So do I have to I don't know. Javid's Instagram handle is Javid LDN. How
mm.
much more obvious does it need to be, Uh I don't know. I don't know what I have to do but I'm not gonna force it. I think it's because I always represent Afghanistan, and I'm always gonna represent Afghanistan, but that doesn't mean I'm not proud of growing up in Britain and being British to some extent. But yeah, I see it sometimes with UFC Europe and I think it's UFC BT Sports or something. I remember when after Javid made his UFC debut, there was a list of they made a poster and they wrote who is going to be the next UFC champion. And I think at the time there was 25 Brits in the UFC, and they put everybody, and they even put some people who are like, even I didn't know they were British. They were from like Australia or somewhere, but
Mm.
they spent a couple of years in Britain and they had a British passport or something. And Javid wasn't in this, and I was like, what? That's crazy, and Javid like at the time was 12-0, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, for sure, I think I would love to get a little bit more credit from the British side as well. Like I don't see people in Britain going, this guy could be the next champion. Be myself or Javid, you know? Um, but yeah, what can I do, you know? I can just there's not much I can do about it.
Well, there is something that you can do about it, and that's get the win on the 5th of March. And I'm sure
Yeah.
that's your prime goal going forward. But obviously, we're at the still at the start of the year now, Farid. So, what I'd like to know is, what are your goals for the next 12 months? Where would you like to be come the end of February 2024?
Next 12 months, my goals are I actually highlighted this after I got my surgery. I said to myself, you know, the next 12 months, I want to stay healthy and fight 3 times. So March, summer, and then end of the year. That's very realistic. I want to stay healthy, you know. I've had a couple of injuries past couple of years and stuff. It's a part of the game, but yeah, I want to stay healthy, God willing, and 3 fights, fight out my contract, and then 2024, hopefully on a new contract, then I can start searching for top 15 names and stuff like that, you know. But that's my goal. Have a busy year.
Last question from me. If one of the Basharat brothers becomes number one contender and one of the other Basharat brothers is champion, what happens? Does one go up to 145?
That might be that right now. That seems like the most likely thing. You know, it's a good thing where we're big bantamweights. You know, we can fill into featherweight. But yeah, if that were to happen, yeah, one of us I think would have to go to feather or yeah. That seems like the most realistic thing.
Probably you, because as you mentioned earlier, Javid is slightly ahead of you in terms of his standing in the rankings, if you like. So he may get there first.
That's
Just
true.
surmising.
But then again, also if he's champion and he's defended it a couple times and he's like, I'm done with bantamweights, I can't bother to make the weight cut anymore. He goes up, gives me a chance to become champ at bantam. That's also very realistic.
Maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but I look forward to
Yeah,
seeing it nonetheless. Farid,
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
so much for your time. It was great to catch up, and if we don't speak before, then I wish you the best of luck for UFC 285.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Speak to you soon, man.
Before we finish, Farid, how can people find you on social media and any sponsors you'd like to plug? The floor is yours for the last word.
Social media. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, both Farid B official. And as far as sponsors, and I want to thank my team, to be honest. BK MMA, Dewey Cooper, Jake Shields, AJJ, everybody at Extreme Couture. And I want to give a special thank you for this fight to the UFC Performance Institute and the staff and the physio team for helping me get to this moment after the surgery. So that's all I got to say. And tune in March 4th. It's going to be the best debut you've seen in a while.